Chumash Rashi, Torah portion. Parshas Kairach. Chukas rather. Kairach was last week. Chukas, second portion. We are Bamidbar, Numbers chapter 19, verse 18. We're in the middle of the red heifer, which is when you come in contact with a human corpse, you become defiled, spiritually defiled, where you need to go through this process of cleansing of the red heifer. What we've gone through is the making of the red heifer. So we continue with this. And you take see, it's in the English over here, I don't know what it has a translation there in the book, but it says richly clean person, but that's how it begins. And he will take a hyssop, and he will dip it into water. Ish tahar, a ritually clean person. Vihiza al ohel, and he will sprinkle on the tent, al kol hakelim, and on all of the vessels, because we spoke about not only humans become, a Jew actually will become impure, but also implements, vessels. Al kol hakelim, v'chol hanefashes, and all of the people, asher hayu sham, that were there. Where's there? Where's there? Huh? In the tent. In the tent. In other words, if you're in a structure where there's a corpse, you become impure. Like if you go to a hospital, right? That people, you become impure, right? If you're in the same structure. And a kohen can't become impure. So it's a problem of a kohen going into a hospital, but not a simple thing.
It's hard to be a doctor if you're going.
Yeah. Anyone who touches a bone, or a slain person, or mace, or a corpse, cover, or a grave. Right? Those are the different ways that you can become. You can touch the person. You could touch with a sword, right? It would be a slain person or a grave where the dead person is, right?
So not touch a sword.
You
said touch a sword, but then I think you corrected yourself. So you can't.
Well, no, if a slain person. Well, it was yesterday. It was the sword. It wasn't now. Just. In other words, a slain person, different. There's the bone of a dead person, right? There's a slain person. There's just a regular death of a person, or the grave where the person is found, right? All those instances, if you touched, you become impure, right? Or if you're in the same ohel, in the same tent, right? Ritually, okay, next, 19. Vihiza hator. So now, to become ritually pure, he will sprinkle the clean person, alatame, on the impure person. On the third day, on the seventh day, because you're impure for 7 days. So now you're taking from this mixture of the burnt red heifer together with the water, together with the hyssop and the that was burnt in there. Now you're taking from another hyssop, right? And you are ritually, you're sprinkling it on the individual. And it'll become cleansed. On the seventh day, he washes his clothes, and he washes his in the water, and he becomes clean at night, ritually pure at night. Means you go to the mikvah. He should be cleansed on the seventh day, meaning that he becomes completely purified.
Then that evening.
And that evening, right. And that evening it becomes right. The ish, and a person, asher yitma, that becomes impure, v'lo yischata, and he doesn't cleanse himself in this process that we just mentioned. The nichrasa nefesh, that soul will be cut off, from the midst of the congregation, which means premature death, from the hands of heaven, right? Ki es mikta, why? And it's not because they're impure, by the way, because you can be impure, right? But it's because ki mikt as mikdash Hashem time, because you impurified the sanctuary of God. In other words, if you came and brought an offering, right, and you came into a place that you have to be pure in the holy temple, right? That's why you would. So in other words, if you're back in your farm, if you came in contact with a corpse and you're on your farm doing your farming, or you're doing business in your town, then it's not an issue, because you're allowed to be impure, right? But you can't be impure when you're doing pure things, like bringing an offering or bringing the tithes, the second tithes to Jerusalem, where you're supposed to eat it in Jerusalem. The second tithe, right? The first tithe you give to the Levites. The second tithe, most years you'll bring it to Jerusalem and to celebrate there. That has to be in purity, right? But if you're eating breakfast, you don't have to eat it in purity, right?
So you're not
Back in
required to
town.
purify yourself, only for like these certain.
Only for the sake of purity.
You could wait like 3 weeks and then be like, oh, I'm going to the temple.
Exactly. Or 3 months.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Right? But that's what the verse, look, it says you're cut off your people. Why? Because you impurified the sanctuary of God.
Yeah.
Not because you did anything else. Yeah. Not because you ate breakfast impure. May nida loizarak alav, and the sprinkling water were not sprinkled upon him. V'tamehu, and the person's unclean. Rashi in verse number 20. Oh, sorry. Today's learning is in the merit of the neshama. Today's yurt site is Mata Bas Meshiakov, right? Meshiakov, Alex's sister. It's the fourth yurt site. And neshama go from strength to strength, and learning in her honor, of course, is helping her neshama. Okay. In verse 20, Rashi, the Isha Sheyitma, a person becomes impure, Im Nemar Mikdash, if it's a sanctuary, has been said, Loma Nemar Mishkan. Why does it say Mishkan?
Also, isn't this somewhat
Kedisa b'Shvuos, as it states in Shvuos. Loma Nemar Mishkan. So our verse says if you enter the sanctuary, right? While in verse 13 it says if you enter the tabernacle, that you be cut off. So had the Torah only said that you enter the tabernacle while you're impure and you're cut off, we would have attributed to the fact that the tabernacle was anointed with the anointing oil, and we would not derive the law of the Beis Hamikdash, which was not anointed from that oil. Had the Torah only said the Beis Hamikdash, our verse, while impure that you be cut off, then we attributed the fact that the Beis Hamikdash is eternal. And that's why. In other words, we have Mishkan means the sanctuary, the tabernacle in the desert. Mikdash means the holy temple in Jerusalem, right? If we would have said, so now we said the word Mikdash, which is referring to the one in Jerusalem, and previously we said Mishkan. Now, often they're interchangeable, right? But we would say, often we use them in interchangeable ways. However, not always. So if we are, sometimes might be that we're emphasizing one. In others, if we would only said Mishkan, we would say that only in the Mishkan you'll be cut off if you came there impure. Why? because there it was anointed with the anointing oil, and therefore it had a greater holiness, right? Because of that, it had greater holiness. But if it would only said, and then excluding the holy temple of Jerusalem, in other words, you wouldn't be cut off, right, from Hashem if you brought an offering when you were impure. The other way around, if it only said in our verse, Mikdash, so we say only in Jerusalem you would be cut off if you brought an offering. Why? Is because it's eternal. The Mishkan was only temporary. So each one had a virtue over the other. So therefore, if the Torah would have only said one, then you would say its virtue is what's being emphasized. In other words, we're not looking at it as a general principle, we're only looking at the specific of what's being mentioned, right? So therefore, it was both had to be mentioned. Okay.
Both principles in this case.
Not both principles, in other words, neither principle. Both you would be cut off if you came there impure. It's not because of the specific principle of each one. It's about the fact that it is God's holy place, and it's not the uniqueness of one place over another.
Okay, got it. So if you're just saying one, then logic would follow that you were talking about
only that one. Exactly. Okay, 21. And this will be for you, a eternal statutory law. The one who sprinkles the sprinkling waters, he should wash his clothes. And the one who touches the sprinkling water shall be unclean until the evening. Rashi 21. The one who sprinkles the water. Rabbi Sina, our sages said, that the one who actually sprinkles is pure. Because it says the pure person has to sprinkle upon the impure person, right? So our verse seemingly should have just said that the verse could have said only that he sprinkles, because obviously it's pure. Because it has to be done only by a pure person, as we said previously. So now that our verse is saying, one second. Right. So our verse that's saying that he is impure is not speaking about the person who is sprinkling, because that person is pure. And if it meant only that person, so Shamazator, the one who sprinkles is pure. This verse is coming to teach us. Shanoisis Meichat is one who carries the waters of purification. Tamei Tumas Chamora. He becomes impure with a severe impurity. Latame Bigadim L'Sha'alav, which means that his clothes become impure. Mashi'enkein Kol Negeya, which is not the case of someone who touches the water. In other words, carrying the water versus touching the water. That's the fact that the verse comes to express the word mazah, the one who sprinkles, to tell you that the waters do not transmit impurity for the one who carries them, till there's a quantity enough for sprinkling.
So sprinkling the water doesn't make you impure.
Right.
But carrying it is.
Does. Yeah.
We learned from that the amount if you carry the amount that's needed for sprinkling, you're also
Yeah.
impure?
No, that's when you're impure if you carry it. Because when it says, and as opposed to if you touch the water, that you become impure, but you become impure, not your clothing. Carrying it, you become even more impure because even your clothes become impure. Okay, 22.
Rabbi, isn't this until the evening?
Yeah, you're impure until the evening, but impure you are, right? Question is who's impure? So Rashi is saying, based on the sages, that it's not the one who's sprinkling, that person's pure, as we said earlier, but it's the one that's carrying, not the one that's touching, because we've already learned about the touching, that you become only impure yourself, not your clothing. Here it says your clothing, so it means even someone, it means the one who carries the water. Yes.
Or the person who's in the vicinity of.
No, it's only touching
Yet,
or.
yet if we go to a cemetery, or not a cemetery, or if we go to a funeral.
Well, yeah, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the process of now the people who are involved in cleansing a person who is impure. The person who went to the cemetery, for example, is impure, right? The person who went to the cemetery and was over a grave is impure, for example, right? We're talking about now the people who are involved in bringing the cleansing to that person. So what we're saying is the one who carries that, right? Who's not, by the fact he carries it, it becomes impure. Touches it also becomes impure, different degrees of impurity, right? The one who actually sprinkles doesn't become impure. Okay.
So two people are becoming impure for this one person to become, two people are becoming impure for one person to become pure.
Yeah. 22. Yeah. So now we're talking about the one who touches it, right? See, here it's talking about touching, so the previous verse is not talking about touching, right? That's how Rashi knows it was about carrying. Anyone who carries it will become, touches it will become impure. And anyone touching shall be impure until the evening. Rashi. Okay, 22. Anyone who is impure shall touch. Hazeh. Anyone touched by this impure, by this impure one. Asher yiga boyatam. Okay, sorry. Anybody who touches the person who is impure. Now, the person, right, sorry. I didn't read it properly. Asher yiga boy hatame yitma. Anyone who touches the impure one, not the mechatas, the impure person, he will become impure, right? And be impure till the evening. Okay?
So if you touch the water, you're not impure anymore?
No, but no, we're not talking about this.
Okay.
This verse now is talking about if you touch the person who is impure,
You become impure.
you become impure until the evening. Yeah, let's see Rashi. Okay, anyone touches Sham, as it touched the impure one mentioned, or the Shenitma b'meis, he became impure through touching a corpse. Yitma. So we're talking now about the person who became impure through coming in contact with a corpse, right? And the person who touches boy tmei mace, and someone who's impure, touching it, who became impure from a corpse. Titma darav becomes impure until the evening. Here we learn shameis that a corpse is the most intense primary source of impurity. Anyone who touches it, avatuma, is a primary source themselves. Adam, and will make a person impure. Okay. You make a person impure. It means you're what's called avatuma. You're a father of impurity because a father gives birth, right? So you gave birth to another impurity because someone touched you. That's what it means, right?
So the corpse is the father of impurity?
No, that's the father of fathers. But the person who touched the corpse is the father, right? Father of father has even a greater degree, meaning it's the most impure is the corpse itself. The one who touches now becomes also a father of impurity, meaning they can father it. How so? Someone touches them or they touch someone, they become impure.
That person can't pass it on.
Right. That person also, the one who is the father of impurity has to go through 7-day process through the red heifer. This person doesn't have to do red heifer, right? This is what an explanation. Red cow, lefi, mashma, in accordance to the way it sounds. These are the laws. I've transcribed the midrash interpretation. According to Moshe Darshan. Now Rashi is going to go through the whole process, explaining it. Okay. As he went through the whole thing already. Now he's going to go through the whole process, like from beginning to end. Which is verse number 2. Okay. Now he's not explaining this verse anymore. He's going from the beginning and going to explain the whole process. Okay, so let's follow. They shall take of their own, just as they removed the golden rings, the eagle for the golden calf, it was their own. So also that you should bring this, the kapara for an atonement, of their own. As they shall take, meaning of their own. In other words, it shouldn't be Moshe's property. It should be the Jewish people's property. Okay? They will bring to you, right? This red heifer. Para aduma, red cow, Mishal 11 Shivcha, it can be compared to a son of a maidservant. Shetina Palton. Why a red heifer? What's going on over here? So he explains. Shetina Palton Shamelach. He soiled the palace of the king. Amr, they said, Tavi let the mother come and wipe away the excrement. So shall come the cow and atone for the calf. He's explaining this as how this is an atonement for the golden calf, right? The golden calf, the Jewish people, what do? They made an excrement. The child made an excrement. Child made it in pants. The Jewish people made it in their pants in the palace of the king. We did it there in front of God, Mount Sinai. He gave us the Torah, and there the Jews made in their pants, right? The child made in its pants. Who should come? The mother should come and clean up. So now comes the mother, Paraduma. That was a golden calf, an eagle. That was a calf. That's the child. This is not a calf. This is a heifer. This is the mother. The mother is now coming to clean up the act of what the child did.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Got it?
The mother of the heifer.
I didn't know.
The mother's a heifer. A mother's a heifer. A heifer's a mother. A heifer's a mother. Yes, it's a female.
The golden calf is
Calf is a child, is a baby calf. It's a child, right? That represents the fact that the children of Israel made excrement in the palace of the king. That's what their service of the golden calf was, right? Now God says, who's going to clean it up? The mother. Who's the mother? The red heifer. In other words, what's going to atone for the golden calf will be this process of when you become impure, becoming in touch with the corpse. This is how you're going to purify yourself. That will not just purify yourself from death, but purify yourself also from the sin of the golden calf. Okay?
Is a young cow, did not have a child.
Didn't have a child, but it's still, but it's an adult. It's not a baby. It's not a calf. It's not a calf.
But it's a young cow.
Why is it young?
Mature.
It's mature.
It could be a young adult cow capable of having.
But prior to having children,
Okay, it's fine. Okay, fine. So it didn't have children.
one that has not had a calf that is.
Yeah, okay, of course. Yeah, it didn't have a calf. Okay, Aduma, red. It must be red. Al Shem Sheyadim Uketailah. Why red? Because your sins are like a red as scarlet dye. Adam that teaches that sin is called red. Tmima, it has to be perfect. Right? Continuing Rashi, perfect. The cow must be perfect. Al Shema Israel, because it's symbolic of the Jewish people. That they were perfect. And also Baal Mumim, but they became blemished through the golden calf. Remember, this is all speaking about the golden calf versus now the cleansing through the red heifer. Okay. So they let the red cow come, and atone for them, and they should return to their perfection. Okay, next. Oil, they should not have a yoke upon it, because they've removed from themselves, Ol Shemaim, the yoke of heaven. So this one should never have a yoke on it. Just as he gathered around Aaron, Shehu Kayin, that he was a Kayin last able to make the calf, that he should Aaron also is able, because Aaron made the calf. This service was not given to him. Why? Because the prosecutor cannot become a defense counsel, right? If you're the prosecutor, then you can now become the defense counsel. So he was part of the prosecution against the Jewish people because he was involved in the golden calf, right? Even though he did it for the sake of heaven, but he was still involved. So he cannot now become the defense counsel to bring purity to the Jewish people. Therefore, his son is doing it. And he shall burn the cow, just as the calf was burned. So now the cow is also burned. A cedar wood, hyssop, and crimson wool. That these three varieties are juxtaposed to correspond to the 3,000 men that they fell with the sin of the golden calf. Erez al Gabaya Mikoli Ilana. It says cedar is the tallest of all trees. Be'ezav Namoch Mikulam, and a hyssop is the lowest of all of them. Simon, this is teaching us burning them together with the crimson wool is a sign, Shigavaya, that the haughty one, Nizgoyel Bechatam, he acted pridefully and therefore sinned. The Yashbil Zatzma, he should lower himself, gaze up like a hyssop, the Selas, and like a worm. He's kaperloy, and therefore he will have atonement. Okay. Next. This is now in reference to verse number 9. Lemishmeres, as a safekeeping, just as he transgressed with the golden calf. Sham, kept for generations. The Puran is for punishment. Because you have no settling of accounts. Egel that does not include something on the account of the golden calf. Shenemar, as it says, on the day that I will make an accounting, meaning I shall bring their sin to account against them. Kishem she'egel, and just as the golden calf, mitame renders impure. Kol ha'iskim boy, and one who deals with it, kach para mitame. So the golden calf, anybody who was involved in became impure, kach para mitame. So does the cow render impure, kol ha'iskim boy, all those who deal with it. Right? Remember, we said the one that carries it, the one that touches it, they become impure, right? So just as Israel were purified through the golden calf's ashes, as it says, that it was strewn upon the water. So likewise, you have to take the impure person some of the ashes of the burning of the purification from the ashes of the red heifer. Okay, let's truck. See if we can make this happen, okay? Chapter 20, verse 1. Yavoya b'nei Israel holeida, And they came, the children of Israel, the entire congregation, Midbar Tzin, from the desert of Tzin, B'chodesh Arishan, in the first month, B'yeshev Ha'am B'kadosh, and the first month, and they dwelled the nation B'kadosh in Kadesh, V'tamah Sham Miriam, and there Miriam died. V'tikavar Sham, and she was buried there. Let's see Rashi. Kol Eda, the entire assembly, Eda Hashlema, the whole assembly, Shekvar Mesa Mesa Midbar. Because at this point, everybody had died in the wilderness, right, from the 40 years. We're in the 40th year now, right? We jumped 38 years. We're in the 40th year. They all died. And these that remained of the assembly were for life. Thomas Shem Sarah, and Sarah died there. Miriam. Why is the passage of Miriam's death juxtaposed the Parshas Paraduma to the red heifer? To tell you, Ma Karbonis Mechaprim, just as offerings bring atonement. Likewise, the death of the righteous also bring atonement. Right? She's righteous. She died. That brought atonement to the Jewish people, just as the red heifer does. Miriam, and she died there. Afhi, the Nishika Mesa, she too died through a kiss. Nipnei Malay Nemarba Alpi Hashem. So why doesn't it say according to God, right? By the mouth of God that she died. If she died by the kiss of death by heaven, in other words, a unique form of death, as we will see later on, Aaron, the way he died. Why doesn't it say that about her? She'ena derech l'kovod shamay, because it's not a respectful manner of speaking in regard to him above on high, to speak about that it was a kiss of God that he gave her when she died. Right? It wouldn't be an appropriate way to speak. It does say by the mouth of God. And it begins in the Maseh, we'll see later on in the Torah portion. In other words, to say by a woman, it wouldn't be appropriate to say that, but by Aaron, a man, it's appropriate. There was no water for the congregation. We called and they assembled against Moshe and Aaron, right? Then there wasn't water for the congregation. Mikan, from here we learn for the entire 40 years, the Israelites, when they were in the desert, they had the well, the Chus Miriam, in the merit of Miriam. And now that she passed away, there wasn't any water left. So it was in her merit. That's why it's juxtaposed to her death. Right? And they quarreled, the nation Moshe with Moshe, but Yaimru, and they said, Lamor, saying, Lo gavanu gava achena lifnei Hashem. If only we had died with the death of our brothers before God. Others, they died in a peaceful way. Our brothers, in other words, the ones who already, remember, it's the 40th year, they all died now. This is a new generation, the one that's going into Israel, right? So they say, we should have died like our brothers, that they died. Right? That's what they're saying. Should it only be that we perished with the death and the demise of our brothers, the way our brothers died through plague. That the death of thirst is worse than the death of a plague. Bigava, by demise, shem davarhu, this is a noun, which means like the death of our brother. We can't explain it as a verb. When our brothers died, sheim kain, but it should be vowelized differently. Okay, verse 4. And why you have brought this congregation to the desert, Hazed, this one, Lamus, to die, that we should die there, and our livestock should die there too. In other words, we're not going to have water, we're all going to die. Why did you bring us from Egypt? To bring us to this evil place, and not to a place that has seed and fig trees, the geffen and grapevines, verimain and pomegranates, but umayim and lishas. There's no water to drink. And Moshe and Aaron They went away from the congregation to the entrance of the tent of meeting, and they fell on their faces, and the presence of God appeared to them. What happened? We'll have to wait for tomorrow.
When he spoke to them.
Right? That's tomorrow's going to be speaking to the rock. Speaking to the rock. All right. We'll see in a few moments.